Although the unemployment rate ticked down in January, overall job growth was weak, and 2015 wasn't as good as it seemed in terms of the number of jobs the economy generated. Hello, this is Bruce Steinberg of www.steinbergemploymentresearch.com reporting on January 2016 U.S. employment trends. The Current Population Survey, or CPS, but commonly known as the Household Survey, reported January's unemployment rate ticked down to 4.9%, the lowest it has been since February 2008, or in almost 8 years. But because of changes in population estimates starting with the January employment situation, the Bureau of Labor Statistics does not calculate changes from previous periods. However, despite those limitations, it is suffice to say that more people had jobs in January and fewer people did not. In addition, the labor force participation rate was incrementally higher, as was the employment to population ratio, and there were fewer persons classified as not in the labor force. The results from the survey of businesses, officially the Current Employment Statistics Program, or CES, but more commonly referred to as the Job Survey or Report, showed that the total number of jobs was up only 151,000, which was much slower growth than the 262,000 the economy added in December, as well as the 280,000 it added in November. We should point out here that the Bureau of Labor Statistics annual revision lowered the level of the river in regards to the number of jobs in 2015. The revisions to the monthly job numbers throughout 2015 were adjusted downward, anywhere from 75,000 to 206,000. The private goods producing sector increased 40,000 in January. That was not as good as the 54,000 it added in December or the 53,000 it added in November. The construction sector slowed to growth of 18,000 in January compared to 48,000 increase in December. Manufacturing jobs, which increased 3,000 and 13,000 in November and December respectively, were up 29,000 in January. Durable goods added 17,000. By the way, only 3,500 of those were in the motor vehicles and parts manufacturing sector, and non-durable goods increased by 12,000. And mining and logging continued to decline with a loss of 7,000 jobs in January after dropping the same amount in December and plummeting by 15,000 in November. Growth in the private service providing sector continued to decelerate with a gain of only 118,000 in January after adding 197,000 in December and 226,000 in November. A year ago, in January 2015, services grew by 154,000. As we've seen for several months, the number of jobs in the retail trade sector continued to be somewhat squirrely. In January, it added 57,700 after declining by 800 jobs in December. That followed an increase of almost 52,000 in November. The professional and business services sector growth slowed considerably with an increase of only 9,000 in January after growth of 60,000 in December and 48,000 in November. Growth for computer systems design and related services was fairly stable with an increase of 3,400 in January after adding 3,100 in December. The education and health services sector managed to add 6,000 jobs in January as the sector's highly seasonal educational services subsector plummeted by almost 39,000 jobs. The healthcare and social assistance subsector was up 44,000 jobs in January after growing by almost 45,000 in December. Home healthcare services contributed its share with 6,300 more jobs in January than December, which was up 4,500. The party picked up in the leisure and hospitality sector that added 44,000 jobs in January after adding only 31,000 in December, but 46,000 in November. And the total number of government jobs was down by 7,000 in January. The federal government contracted by 8,000. State government was down 10,000, but local government added 11,000. As we said last month, and I quote, "At the end of the year immediately preceding BLS's annual revisions, there are apparently relatively large adjustments to the data. Unfortunately, we were correct, and the BLS revisions and January's performance played havoc with temporary help services. With the exception of a good December, the sector has been flat since October. In January, the temporary help services sector was down 25,200 jobs to 2,919,100, which was a 0.9% decline from December and only up 2.9% year over year, which was the smallest year over year growth since January 2010. And temporary help services market share, that is, its portion of all jobs, retreated to 2.04% in January. With the publication of annual revisions, we see that temporary help services were up 9.3% in 2015, which was an improvement from growth of 5.4% in 2014. And although 2015 ended on a note of weakness for temporary help services, growth for 2015 was still the best since 2011. The good news is that the unemployment rate continues to drift downward as more people find jobs and there are fewer unemployed persons. The bad news is that 2016 started off with a whimper in terms of job creation. The economy has been in expansion mode for 80 months, or more than 6.5 years. Excluding the current cycle and starting with the 1970 expansion, there have been 3 longer and 3 or 4 shorter economic expansions that have lasted on the average of 81 months. Does this mean that the current 80-month expansion cycle has run its course? Not necessarily, as there are no hard and fast rules, but a recession is out there lurking. It's really only a question of when. This has been Bruce Steinberg, and this is just a brief sample of the employment data and analysis we provide.